What if I told you there are plants that fight your garden battles for you, and you only have to plant them once? No more spraying toxic chemicals on your food. No more losing entire crops to aphids, beetles, and caterpillars overnight. No more spending money every season on pesticides that barely work and leave residue on everything you eat. What I'm about to share with you is something most gardeners spend years figuring out on their own, but you're going to know it by the end of this video. Today, I'm sharing 9 perennials of plants that come back every single year that will repel pests, attract the beneficial insects that eat those pests, and protect your garden season after season without you having to do a thing. But before we dive in, if you are new here, welcome. I post practical, no chemical gardening strategies every single week for people who want to grow real food without relying on a bottle of poison. Hit that subscribe button right now and ring that notification bell so you never miss a video. This community is growing fast, and I would love for you to be a part of it. And if you already watch me regularly, thank you from the bottom of my heart. You are the reason I keep showing up every week. Drop a hello in the comments. I love seeing your names down there. All right, let's talk about these 9 plants. And I want to start by explaining why this works, because once you understand the principle, you'll never look at your garden the same way again. Most gardeners think about pest control as a reaction. Something goes wrong and you reach for a spray. But here's the problem with that approach. By the time you see the damage, the infestation is already underway. And the sprays, even the organic ones, often kill beneficial insects right along with the harmful ones, which means you end up weaker than when you started. The perennials I'm sharing today work on a completely different principle. They work preventatively, through 2 main mechanisms. The first is chemical repellents. Many of these plants produce volatile compounds in their leaves and flowers, essentially strong-smelling oils, that insects find overwhelming or disorienting. When a pest flies into your garden and hits that scent wall, it either turns around or never lands in the first place. The second is habitat creation. Many harmful insects have natural predators, lacewings, parasitic wasps, hoverflies, and ladybugs that eat them and lay their eggs in their populations. But these beneficial insects need food and shelter to survive near your garden. The right flowering plants provide exactly that. When you combine both strategies, repelling the pests and feeding the predators, you build an ecosystem that manages itself. And because these are perennials, that ecosystem gets stronger every single year. Now let's get into the plants. I'll walk you through all 9, covering what they repel, what they attract, where to plant them, and exactly what crops they protect best. Take notes. This is worth writing down. And hey, if you're learning something new already, go ahead and hit that like button. It tells YouTube this content is worth sharing, and it helps me reach more gardeners who need this information. I appreciate every single one. Plant number 1 is lavender. If you could only put one pest-repelling perennial in your garden, lavender might be it. And most people grow it purely for how it looks and smells, but what it does for your garden on a pest control level is remarkable. Here's what lavender repels: fleas, moths, mosquitoes, whiteflies, and several species of flies. The key is its high concentration of linalool and camphor, 2 volatile compounds that are overwhelming to these insects' nervous systems. They don't hate the smell the way we might say we dislike something. It's physically disorienting to them. They cannot navigate properly in high concentrations of those compounds, so they simply avoid areas where lavender is growing. Now, at the same time that lavender is pushing pests away, it's pulling in one of the most powerful pest predator insects in existence, the parasitic wasp. Parasitic wasps sound terrifying, but they are tiny. Most species you would never even notice. They don't sting humans. What they do is hunt aphids, caterpillars, whiteflies, and beetle larvae. They lay their eggs inside pest populations, and the larvae consume the pests from the inside out. A healthy population of parasitic wasps in your garden is worth more than any spray you could buy. Lacewings are also drawn heavily to lavender, and lacewing larvae are absolutely voracious. They will devour aphids, thrips, spider mites, and small caterpillars at a rate that is hard to believe. Where to plant lavender? Plant it along the borders of your vegetable beds, near entry points and pathways, and especially near plants that are prone to whitefly and aphid pressure, like tomatoes, peppers, and beans. Lavender wants full sun and well-draining soil. Once it's established, usually after the first full season, it is incredibly drought-tolerant and low-maintenance. One tip: deadhead the spent flower stalks after blooming to encourage a second flush. And every 2 to 3 years, give it a light pruning in early spring to keep it from getting woody in the center. Lavender is hardy in zones 5 through 9. If you're in a colder zone, look for the variety called hidcoat. It's the most cold tolerant. Plant number 2 is yarrow, and this one might surprise you. Yarrow is one of the most powerful beneficial insect attractors in the entire plant kingdom, and it's also a strong repellent against aphids and Japanese beetles, two of the most destructive pests in a home garden. Let's talk about what makes yarrow so special. Its flowers are flat-topped clusters of tiny blooms, almost like a landing platform. That shape is specifically ideal for beneficial insects that have short mouth parts. Hoverflies, parasitic wasps, minute pirate bugs, insects that need easy access to nectar but can't reach down into deep tubular flowers. Hoverfly larvae are some of the most effective aphid predators that exist. A single hoverfly larva will consume hundreds of aphids over the course of its development. And adult hoverflies are also pollinators for your vegetable crops. So yarrow is doing double duty. It's feeding pest predators and improving your yields. Yarrow also contains compounds called alkaloids and terpenes that have been shown in studies to deter aphids and Japanese beetles when planted nearby. The specific compounds vary by variety. The white-flowered species, Achillea millefolium, tends to have the highest concentration. Where to plant yarrow: place it along garden edges and in any gaps between beds. It spreads slowly through rhizomes, which means it fills in naturally over time without being invasive. It does best in full sun and is remarkably tolerant of poor soil. In fact, overly rich soil can make it floppy. Plant it dry and let it spread. Yarrow is especially effective near roses, fruit trees, and berry bushes, plants that are consistently targeted by aphids and beetles. It's also a beautiful cut flower, so you get that bonus as well. It comes back reliably every spring in zones 3 through 9, and it often blooms from early summer all the way through early fall, giving you a long window of protection. We are almost through the first third of our list, and I want to pause for 1 second. If you are getting value from this video, if you're already thinking about your garden differently, please save this video right now. Hit the save button under the video. A tutorial like this is exactly the kind of thing you want to come back to when you're planning your spring garden, and you do not want to lose it in your feed. Plant number 3 is mint, and I want to give you the full picture on this one, because mint is both incredibly powerful and a plant you need to treat carefully. Mint's pest-repelling strength comes from its high concentration of menthol and related compounds. These volatile oils are intensely disorienting to a wide range of insects. Aphids, flea beetles, ants, spider mites, and even some species of caterpillar will avoid areas where mint is present. Here's something that not many people talk about. Ants are actually a significant pest problem in gardens, not because they eat your plants directly, but because they farm aphids. Ants will literally protect aphid colonies from predators in order to harvest the honeydew aphids secrete. If you can disrupt the ants with mint, you indirectly collapse the aphid protection system. That's a major cascade benefit. Mint also attracts predatory wasps and hoverflies when it flowers, so let it bolt and bloom at least in some areas of your garden rather than cutting it all the way back. Now, the important caveat. Mint spreads aggressively through underground runners. If you plant it directly in the ground in a mixed bed, it will take over within 1 to 2 seasons. The solution is simple. Plant mint in containers, then set those containers throughout your garden. You get all the aromatic repellents, the beneficial insect attraction, and zero invasiveness. The best varieties for pest control are spearmint and peppermint. Both have high menthol content. Chocolate mint and apple mint are wonderful, but their pest-repelling compounds are somewhat lower. For garden protection, stick with spearmint or peppermint. Mint is incredibly easy to overwinter in containers if you bring them inside, or you can simply cut them back and leave them outside in most zones. They're perennial down to zone 3. Place your mint containers near brassicas, like cabbage and kale, near bean rows and near your pepper plants. These are the crops most targeted by the pest's mint repels. Plant number 4 is chives. Chives are a member of the allium family, and the alliums are some of the most effective pest repellents in nature. The secret is in their sulfur-based compounds, the same chemistry that gives chives, garlic, and onions their sharp, pungent smell. That scent is highly specific in the insects it affects, and the affected list includes some of your worst garden enemies. Chives repel aphids, Japanese beetles, carrot flies, and several species of caterpillar. They are especially effective against aphids. The sulfur compounds interfere with the aphid's ability to locate host plants through scent. Essentially, chives create a scent cloud that masks the chemical signals your vegetables are emitting, making them harder for aphids to find. There's also a secondary effect with Japanese beetles. Chives don't kill them, nothing topical really does, but the allium compounds make the surrounding environment unpleasant enough that they will preferentially feed elsewhere if they have a choice. Companion planting with chives is one of the most well-documented strategies in all of organic gardening. Here are the pairings you want to know. Plant chives near roses to dramatically reduce aphid pressure on the canes. Plant them near carrots to deter carrot fly. Plant them near tomatoes and peppers to reduce spider mite and aphid colonization. They also do well near fruit trees, especially apples, where they deter woolly aphids and codling moth. One of the best things about chives is how early they come up in spring. They are often one of the first plants out of the ground, which means they start working before most of your crops are even in the ground. That early season protection window is genuinely valuable. Chives produce beautiful purple globe flowers in late spring that are also edible, a bonus. Let some of those flowers go through their full cycle to allow reseeding and to keep beneficial insects fed. They're perennial in zones 3 through 9 and divide easily. Every 2 to 3 years you can split a clump and spread them throughout your garden at no cost. We're halfway through. I want to do a quick check-in. If you're watching this and thinking that you want to try this in your garden this year, go ahead and comment "I'm in" right now. I read every single comment on this channel, and I love knowing who's actually going to put these strategies to use. You might even inspire someone else who's on the fence. Drop "I'm in" down below and let's keep going. Plant number 5 is catmint, and I want to make sure you know the difference between catmint and catnip before you go to the nursery. Catmint is Nepeta focinii. Catnip is Nepeta cateria. They are related and cats are attracted to both, but catmint is the one you want for your garden. It's a more refined, ornamental plant with silvery green leaves and soft purple-blue flower spikes, and its pest-repelling properties are significantly stronger. Catmint repels aphids, Japanese beetles, squash bugs, ants, and weevils. The nepetalactone compound in catmint, the same compound that affects cats, is actually a powerful insect repellent. Research has suggested it may be more effective than DEET against mosquitoes, and its effect on squash bugs and ants in the garden is well documented by home gardeners and researchers alike. Squash bugs are one of the most frustrating pests for anyone growing zucchini, pumpkins, or winter squash. They're hard to see, hard to catch, and they multiply fast. Planting catmint near your squash patch creates a scent barrier that significantly reduces squash bug pressure. At the same time, catmint is absolutely beloved by pollinators. Bumblebees, honeybees, and beneficial wasps cover catmint plants when they are in bloom. Because catmint blooms from late spring all the way through fall, especially if you shear it back after the first big flush, it provides one of the longest windows of beneficial insect support of any plant on this list. Where to plant catmint? It thrives in full sun to partial shade and is extremely drought-tolerant once established. Use it along bed borders, as edging along pathways, and around the base of fruit trees. It gets about 18 to 24 inches tall and wide, so give it room to fill in. Zones 3 through 8. Hardy, beautiful, effective. This one earns its place in every garden. Plant number 6 is fennel, and this one requires a specific placement strategy, so pay attention. Fennel is arguably the single most powerful beneficial insect attractor on this list. Its feathery, umbrella-shaped flower clusters, what's called a compound umbel, are perfectly structured to feed a huge range of beneficial insects that many other flowers simply can't support. Predatory wasps, parasitic wasps, hoverflies, lacewings, soldier beetles, and ground beetles all feed heavily on fennel when it's flowering. These insects are your front line against caterpillars, aphids, beetle larvae, and soil-dwelling pests. Building a thriving population of these insects near your garden is worth more than any other single pest control strategy. Here is the important caveat. Fennel is allelopathic to most vegetables, meaning it releases chemicals from its roots that inhibit the growth of nearby plants. Tomatoes, peppers, beans, and most brassicas should not be planted close to fennel. The solution is to plant fennel at the edge of your property, near the garden but not in it. A cluster of fennel plants 10 to 15 feet from your main beds will recruit and sustain a population of beneficial insects that then patrol your entire garden. Think of it as a barracks for your garden's army. The exception, dill. Fennel and dill actually cross-pollinate, which degrades both plants over time. Keep them separated if you grow both. Fennel is a short-lived perennial in zones 4 through 9. It may self-seed prolifically, which in many cases is exactly what you want. Let it naturalize along your garden's perimeter and you'll always have a colony going. Bronze fennel is particularly ornamental, with beautiful copper-colored foliage that looks stunning in late summer. If you want to grow fennel for both beauty and function, bronze fennel is the one to get. Before I keep going, we've covered 6 plants so far. If you have a friend or a family member who is also a gardener, especially if they're struggling with pest pressure or they're new to growing food, send them this video right now. Share it with them directly. This is exactly the kind of information that changes how someone gardens, and it costs nothing to share. Plant number 7 is lemon balm. Lemon balm is a member of the mint family, so it shares some of the same volatile oils, but its pest-repelling profile is distinct. Its citrusy, lemony fragrance comes from compounds called citronellol, geraniol, and citrol, and these are specifically effective against mosquitoes, gnats, squash bugs, and aphids. Mosquitoes in the garden are annoying to you as the gardener, but gnats and fungus gnats are actually destructive to your plants, particularly to young seedlings. Lemon balm planted near seed-starting areas or around transplants helps keep gnat pressure down during that vulnerable early growth window. Squash bugs. If you're growing any cucurbits, you know the struggle. Lemon balm near your squash, cucumber, and pumpkin plants creates another layer of scent defense alongside catmint and chives. Lemon balm also attracts bees heavily. Some studies show that lemon balm was historically used to draw swarms and establish new hives. Beekeepers used to rub it on empty hives to make them more attractive to scout bees. What this tells you is that bees love it deeply, and a garden full of well-pollinated vegetables means better yields across the board. It grows to about 18 to 24 inches tall, prefers partial shade to full sun, and is remarkably adaptable to different soil types. Like mint, it can spread but more gently. In most gardens you can plant it directly in the ground and manage it with occasional division rather than containment. Zones 3 through 7. Plant number 8 is Tansy, and this is the one with the longest track record of any plant on this list. Tansy has been used for pest control since at least the Middle Ages. Farmers hung bundles of it in barns, rubbed it on their animals, and planted it around doorways and gardens to repel insects. And modern research has validated what those farmers knew intuitively. Tansy contains a compound called thujone that is a powerful insecticide and repellent. Tansy repels ants, flies, Japanese beetles, squash bugs, cucumber beetles, striped beetles, and certain moths. That's an impressive and specific list. Cucumber beetles, in particular, are extremely difficult to control organically. They feed on cucumbers, melons, squash, and beans, and they also carry bacterial wilt disease that can kill your plants within days of infection. Anything that pushes cucumber beetles away from your crops is genuinely valuable. Plant tansy near your cucumbers, squash, melons, and berry bushes for the most impact. It grows tall, up to 4 feet, with bright yellow button flowers in late summer that are quite striking. Those flowers also attract beneficial predatory insects, so tansy is both repelling pests and feeding their hunters simultaneously. The important safety note: Tansy contains thujone, which is toxic in large quantities. It should not be used as an edible herb, and it should be planted away from areas where young children or pets regularly play. Wear gloves when handling it, especially if you're sensitive-skinned. But as a companion plant growing nearby, not being consumed, it is safe and effective. Tansy spreads by both rhizomes and seed, so it can become weedy if not managed. Deadhead the flowers before they go to seed if you want to control its spread. It's perennial in zones 4 through 8. Plant number 9 is Russian sage, and this is the one that surprises people most. Russian sage, Perovskia atroplicifolia, is not actually a true sage. It's related to mint and lavender, but it shares their powerful aromatic oils, and those oils make it one of the most effective pest deterrent plants you can grow. Here's what makes Russian sage uniquely valuable. It is highly effective at deterring deer and rabbits, which cause more crop damage in home gardens than almost any insect pest. If you've ever woken up to find your garden devastated overnight by a deer, you understand why this matters. Deer find the aromatic compounds in Russian sage deeply unpleasant. Planting it around the perimeter of your garden creates a scent boundary that significantly reduces deer browsing. Beyond deer, Russian sage repels many flying insects through its volatile oils, and its long, wispy purple flower spikes, which bloom from midsummer all the way into fall, long after most other plants have finished, provide one of the latest season resources for beneficial insects like predatory wasps and parasitic wasps that need to build up their populations before winter. Russian sage is also completely drought-tolerant once established, deer-resistant, disease-resistant, and nearly indestructible. It thrives in zones 5 through 9, in full sun, in poor and well-draining soil. It actually performs worse in rich, moist soil. The stems get floppy. Plant it on the outer perimeter of your garden, in any sunny spots, along fences and property lines. By late summer, it creates a hazy silver-purple wall that is one of the most beautiful things in the garden, and one of the most effective. Now I want to pull all of this together, because the real power isn't in planting one of these. It's in layering several of them to create overlapping systems of protection. Here is how I think about designing a pest-resistant garden using these plants. Start with your perimeter. Russian sage along the outer edges creates the first line of defense against deer, rabbits, and flying insects. Fennel planted nearby, but away from the vegetable beds themselves, recruits beneficial insects and gives them a home base. Move inward to your bed edges. Lavender and catmint along the front borders create the second scent barrier. Yarrow fills in the gaps between beds, functioning as a habitat for hoverflies and parasitic wasps while also deterring aphids and beetles. Within and among your vegetables, use chives as interplanting. Tuck them between tomatoes, near carrots, beside roses, and along your bean rows. They're compact enough to fit anywhere. Use mint in containers placed strategically, near your brassica beds, beside your beans, and along any areas where you consistently see ant activity. Plant lemon balm on the shadier edges of your garden where not much else grows well. Let it spread gently and fill those difficult spots with pest-repelling fragrance. Save your tansy for the far side of your squash and cucumber beds. Give it room to get tall and let it work on the cucumber beetles and squash bugs that seem to find those crops every single season. What you end up with is a garden that smells complex and alive, because it is. A garden that has food, shelter, and habitat for the insects you want while simultaneously being disorienting and unpleasant for the insects you don't. It doesn't happen overnight. In the first year, you're planting and establishing. By the second year, you'll notice the difference. By the third year, people will ask you how you manage to grow such clean food without spraying anything, and you'll be able to tell them exactly how. Before I close out, I want to share 3 bonus principles that will make everything work even better. First, don't be too tidy. A lot of gardeners clean up their beds in fall, cutting everything back, raking away debris, clearing every stem. But beneficial insects overwinter in hollow stems, leaf litter, and soil. If you cut everything back to the ground in fall, you're destroying the habitat of the very insects you spent all season recruiting. Leave hollow stems standing through winter. Rake litter to the edges rather than removing it completely. Your garden's defenders need somewhere to sleep through the cold months. Second, let things flower. Many gardeners deadhead religiously to keep beds tidy. And while deadheading can extend bloom time on some plants, the flowers themselves are the resource that feeds beneficial insects. Let at least some of your herbs and perennials go fully through their flowering cycle. Let the chive blooms open fully. Let the fennel flower. Let the lemon balm bloom before you cut it back. Those flowers are working for you. Third, stop spraying even organically. I know that sounds extreme, but here is the hard truth. When you spray your garden, even with neem oil or pyrethrin, which are widely accepted in organic gardening, you are killing beneficial insects alongside the harmful ones. Every spray event sets back the predator population you're trying to build. The more you can resist reaching for any spray, the faster your beneficial insect population will grow, and the more self-sustaining your garden will become. It takes patience, especially in the first season or two. But the payoff is a garden that genuinely runs itself. That is the full list. 9 perennials planted once that will change the entire dynamic of how your garden handles pest pressure year after year. If you are serious about implementing this in your garden, save this video right now. Watch it again when you're planning your spring beds and use it as a reference. You're going to want to come back to it. I want to hear from you in the comments. Tell me which of these plants you're already growing and which ones you're adding this year. Are you planting lavender, trying Russian sage for the first time, getting tansy in near your cucumbers? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one and I love hearing what's happening in your garden. If this video helped you, hit the like button. It takes 2 seconds and it helps this video reach more people who are trying to grow food without chemicals. Every single like genuinely matters. And if you are not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? I post every single week. Real strategies, no fluff for real gardeners. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss a video. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. It means everything that you show up week after week and trust me with your garden time. I'll see you in the next one.